Mike, let's start with the big news. And you and I didn't get a chance to talk a lot about it on Tuesday when I was at the ballpark, but the Rafael Devers trade, which snuck up on all of us, of course. But I wanted to start with, and I thought a lot about this, Mike. If you could draw up the exact kind of hitter that I think the Giants needed in this lineup, and I didn't want it to sound like I was being a homer on this, but if you really think about Devers, he fits exactly the kind of hitter that they needed. He's left-handed. He's an anchor. He's a middle of the lineup guy. He's got power the other way in this ballpark, which is huge. He's a cornerstone guy. He's signed long-term. I mean, if you add all that up, he's pretty close to being the exact kind of hitter and the kind of offensive threat that they needed.
Well, I totally agree. I mean, they needed some threat and they needed some reputation. And they needed a guy who was not afraid of the big moment. And they needed a guy who had high expectation for himself. I mean, that all rubs off on other players, and it makes everybody better. It's interesting, the dynamic when a guy comes over mid-season, because here's a guy who everybody knows, everybody respects, and everybody, and certainly the young players, are in awe of what he's accomplished in his career, the reputation that he has. And he comes over to a really established clubhouse with a lot of really good veterans. You got Verlander and Robbie Ray and Logan Webb, and you've got Matt Chapman, and you've got Wilmer Flores, and you've got guys that are just really good pros. And you bring another guy of reputation, and there's a grace period where you have to find the comfort zone for everybody. Because when a guy with reputation walks in, everybody in that clubhouse wants his respect. They want him to respect their game. So, and obviously the guy coming in wants to have the respect of everybody in that room. So there's a grace period where you have to kind of struggle to find the comfort zone. I love the significance of the deal going down in mid-June rather than late July, because it gives you it softens the urgency of you to find the comfort zone within your team's personality. Now, sometimes it never happens when you have a July 31st, August 1st guy come in and you only have 2 minutes left. I mean, he's got to find the comfort zone early, and sometimes it doesn't happen. That's why I thought the significance of Buster pulling this trigger on this deal and getting it done in mid-June was of huge significance. And I think it had a little bit to do with the personality of Rafi Devers. If you look at what happened, look at all the distraction and all the controversy he went through in spring training. It was a major distraction for him. And you saw how he started the season. I think his first 17 at bats, he struck out 14 times.
Yeah.
And then, he took off. And then he proceeded to start getting back into the groove of things and whatnot. So this is distraction coming over to a new team, something that he's never done mid-season. And so, you have to give them a little bit of time to get this thing all done. So I love the fact that they've done this. I love the fact that they've done this early, prior to the trade deadline. And in regards to him being the type of hitter that they need, 100%, he'll make everybody better. But, you have to wait for them to get to that comfort zone. But they're all going to have to get to that. But this is a guy that they've been trying to get for a couple of years, and they finally did.
A lot of stuff coming out of Boston. Nobody knows everything that happened. The front office knows, and Rafi Devers knows. None of us know. We read about it, we hear about it. But I do know this, Mike. I was not a major league player. You were for a long time, but I've been around it long enough to know that the one thing that can really bother a major league player is if he feels like the front office isn't being honest with him. And I think that's the way Devers felt. Now, we don't know how much truth there is to that. And I think both sides probably could have handled this situation better. And I think Devers would probably admit that. And I think the Red Sox front office would admit that. But how accurate am I, Mike, to say that as a big leaguer, you do not want to feel like the front office is not being straight up with you as a player or as a manager or as a coach.
It's such a sensitive thing. And, you know, I see certain managers that have the style where they are going to back their players no matter what, because they know how sensitive it is to maintain a clubhouse that flows, that there aren't any speed bumps in. And I think that, you know, as a player, you expect that out of an organization. You expect that out of your general manager. You expect that out of your manager and your coaching staff, to everybody be on board and support and pull and push and pat on the back and kick in the butt. I mean, it's the nature of a good chemistry. And when a controversy happens, there's one intangible there that you cannot control. And it's not even so much the writers, because the writers, for the most part, you know, 99 out of 100 are going to be responsible journalists, and they're going to report what they see, and they're going to interpret it their way. But they're going to be fair.
Yeah.
Where it gets weird is when it goes out into social media, where you invite opinion that is not educated, it's emotional. And all of a sudden it takes on a new life. And then that filters its way into the clubhouse. And it's a true poison. And it can take down a clubhouse as quick as anything that I've ever seen. That's how sensitive it is. I mean, one teammate, one guy in the clubhouse, without the distraction of social media or anything to do with the media at all, one player, if he's disgruntled, can take down a whole clubhouse. It is that sensitive. I've seen it. I mean, I've seen it. And just, I'll give you a story. When we were in AA baseball, we were in Midland, Texas, and I was with the Cubs. And we had really a good pitching staff. The oldest guy on the team was a guy named Donnie Schrader, and he was good. And he had been in big league camp with the Yankees. And, of course, you know, we got around him in all bus rides. We were peppering him about information about the big leaguers and about big league camp and what it was like. And it really felt like a Bull Durham moment. But he was funny, but he was negative. Yeah. You know, you come to the ballpark in Midland, Texas, has a gale blowing out to left every day. It's really an offensive side, you know, left field side. And he'd walk in every day, go, hey, he was on the launch pad today. You know, it was, but it planted a bad seed.
Yeah. It's not that funny anymore. After a while, it's not funny, right?
No. And we come to the ball, and there were other things and comments and whatnot. They always kind of had like a negative vibe to him and whatnot. Anyway, we come to the, and he was the best pitcher of the team at the time. We get to the ballpark one day, and, you know, we had Donnie Moore and Bruce Sutter and Dennis Lamp and myself, and all, you know, guys had some long careers in big leagues. We get there, and we look over at Doc Edwards, who was our manager. He called a meeting, and we looked over at Donnie Schrader, and there was nothing in his locker. It was cleared out. And Doc Edwards said, you may notice that there's a locker that is cleared out. He's cleared out because his personality was negative to this club, and we feel that it affected the team in an overall way. Anybody that calls it the launch pad anymore will be released. Any negative comment about anything that we do on a daily basis, or how we travel, or where we stay, or the food we eat, any negative comment, and you will be released. So we're looking around at each other, and Doc said, from now on, that is not the launch pad, it's the victory circle. So we kind of went, oh my God. I mean, we'd never seen anything like this before. A guy get released, a guy who was pitching well. And so we went about it. We kind of had fun with it. Okay, who's in the victory circle today? And we'd look over our shoulders and whatnot. And it kind of, and you know what? At the time, we were like 9 games under 500. And it turned us around. Yeah. And we wound up being co-champs in the Texas League that year with the Giants AA team, Lafayette, Louisiana. And but the moral of the story was, we found out how sensitive it is and how fast a clubhouse can turn. So I wasn't there. I don't know all the sides involved and whatnot. I just know that it was hard for everybody there, because as a player, if you're not the guy who's involved in the controversy, you're getting asked about it every day, and you can't get away from it. So I think it was a learning experience for a lot of guys. And I think for Rafael Devers, it was he rallied well. I mean, he's having a great year. And I tip my cap to him to be able to, resurrect his his season and to have a great season going. And I do think that the Giants, coming to the Giants, is an opportunity for him to get a fresh start. I'm not saying that he absolutely needed one in Boston, but it certainly is an opportunity for him here, and what he means to this club and how he's being received. And he walked into that clubhouse and he knew right away it was a good clubhouse.
Mm-hmm.
He went to his presser on Tuesday, and everybody in the Giant, every player attended the press conference. They're all sitting there in the audience.
Very cool.
And it was a very cool thing, but that's how they are. It's a very strong clubhouse, and they welcomed him with open arms. And so I think it's a good place for him. It certainly is in the eyes of the Giants and Giants fans in the front office. And everybody's got a number on their back that says Giants on the front. So I'm really anticipating this is going to be a really positive thing that happens to this club. We all are.
I wanted to look back to 1987, and I know that's a long time ago, but it got me thinking about the Giants making a big trade when the team was struggling. You were on that team when the Giants made the Padres trade. So it's 1987, Mike, and I looked this up. You guys were scuffling. You had lost 14 out of 20 in a stretch. You're playing right around 500, and now it's the 4th of July. And Al Rosen makes the big deal with the Padres, and you get Mitchell and Dravecki and Lefferts. And I wanted to see how you felt about that, because it's not the exact same kind of trade as this. But my point is what is a big trade like the one we saw this week and the one we're talking about way back in 87? How can that uplift a clubhouse and, I'm not saying turn things around, but get it back going in the right direction with new players? Because after that, you guys played great baseball. And I know there's a lot of other things that were going on. It wasn't just the guys you got, and you guys went on to win the division. So how can a big trade pull up a clubhouse if it's needed, or maybe get things headed in the right direction? Because you saw it firsthand back in 87.
Well, the number one thing is that you as a team have the perception that you just got better. You had respect for everybody that walked in your clubhouse. For Kevin Mitchell, I mean, he went back to San Diego from New York, and it wasn't easy for him. And the press wasn't that fair with him, and it hurt him the way that he was treated there. So I thought for a change of scenery was really good for him. We had a really established clubhouse. We had good leadership in the clubhouse, and we really went out of our way, and we didn't have to go far. We went on a road trip. It was great. When Mitchell shows up, he didn't have a name on his number. In his back, he was number 7 with no name on it. And we put him in the book for that. And he had to pay a fine. Dravecki and Lefferts, I mean, it was just a great opportunity for them. And again, we all respected the two of them. Yeah. So we all assumed that, we really got, better. And but I'll tell you, we had a game shortly thereafter that we had to play a exhibition game in Phoenix, which at the time was the Giants AAA affiliate. So we go down there, and Mitchell, I mean, he had an unbelievable wardrobe, and he had a lot of leather. So now we're going into Phoenix. It was like 110 degrees, and the bus that picks us up at the airport, it didn't have air conditioning. Mitch is in the back of the bus, and he is perspiring profusely, and to the point where we're starting to worry about him. Well, when leather pants that are tight to begin with get wet with perspiration, they start to shrink, and now they're starting to get tight. So now we get about halfway from the airport to Phoenix Stadium, where we're going to play the exhibition game, and he's taking scissors and he's cutting off the leather pants, and he's cutting off the leather jacket. And we were, I mean, it was miserable, and there was 125 degrees in there, right? It was terrible, but we were laughing at and the way he handled it, the whole thing. Well, anyway, we put him in the book for endangering 14 different species of animal with his wardrobe. And when you do something like that, you say, okay, how's this going to react to this?
Yeah.
He was the guy that laughed the loudest in the room. He thought it was hysterical. And that was just a way to find the comfort zone for him. And we did the same thing with Dravecki, and we did the same thing with Lefferts. But it was really a quick journey for all three of those guys to feel like they belonged on that club. And the impact that they had, I thought, was absolutely the difference maker in that season. And we went on to win the division. For a lot of us, it was the first time we'd ever won. And it was just one of the greatest experiences we ever had. But, you know, we did what we needed to do to get the chemistry that we had before the trade, because we said goodbye to really good people that went to the Padres, people that we were fond of and we liked and were our teammates. And when you bring in new faces, there's a period where you're a little vulnerable as a team. But with Devers coming in and being the personality that he is, you kind of feel like, I mean, there's a softness about him, where he has a trust when he walks into a room, and when those people that surround him meet the trust that he anticipates, it's really a good vibe. So I don't think that this grace period for this team to redefine their chemistry with his addition is going to be an obstacle at all. I think it's going to be a good thing. Today's game had a lot to do with it.
Yeah. One more thing about the trade, and that's you got to give something up to get somebody like Devers, right? And listen, I mean, Jordan Hicks, I think he was expendable. He never looked comfortable as a starter. That was just a thing that was always kind of there with Hicks. And you give him a couple of minor leaguers. One of them looks like a pretty good hitter. That's the price you pay. But I wanted to ask you about Kyle Harrison, because he was the main player in the trade. And I know you're very high on Kyle Harrison. We've talked about him a lot, you and I. And I have something that I want to run by you. But before that, give us your opinion about Kyle Harrison and why you felt like, I mean, before the trade, you had felt like of all these young pitchers, he may be the one that has the highest ceiling.
Well, I think he may have the highest ceiling simply because there are 3 or 4 different ways that he's going to find in adding pitches to his arsenal that are going to elevate him rather quickly. Because right now, I mean, he's 65% of the time he's coming at you with a high 4-seam fastball. Mm-hmm. And it's a good one. He's had lots of success with it. When we saw it last year, he wasn't throwing the volume, velocity-wise, that we saw when he came back this year. When he came back this year, you're like, oh my God. Plus, he's got a massive set of rocks on him. He just doesn't think that there's a guy that can hit him. And you can't teach that. It's either you have it or you don't. Yeah. So that's his foundation, that fastball. He's learned to throw